I mean, it's...
That was easy. Just get in the vortex.
Well, and now that you mentioned the vortex, you know, the last part of that quote is, how can I get a feeling of exhilaration here and now? And I know I've created a tremendous amount. You've described for Esther her vortex at times. Can you describe a little bit mine for me?
We can and we will. And before this day is finished, we'll do a lot of that. But there's something more important to do here first.
Okay.
And that is, we want you to realize that when you tune in to a frequency, no matter how you got there, maybe you watched something on television, maybe something happened to somebody you know, maybe you observed something, maybe you just started remembering something. It doesn't matter. Once you tune into it and you stay focused there, you're going to activate the vibration about it, and then you're going to have an emotional response that gives you an indication of your vibrational proximity to the way the source within you feels about the same thing. Now, this is the most important thing for you to hear, and you haven't known this before in this way. Emotions are indicators of vibration, of vibrational relationship. In other words, you're not just having an emotion to something. Your emotion is about your response as compared to your inner being's response about the same thing. Do you hear how important that is? In other words, another way of saying it is, if you look at something and it takes you to your knees, it's upsetting to you, meaning it's debilitating and the crippling to you the way it feels, what that's telling you is you're way, 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 way off from the way your source thinks and feels about the identical thing. That's guidance. And it's not guidance saying you're wrong. It's not your inner being saying you're wrong, you're stupid, you're foolish, you're inept, you're incapable, you're wrong. It's just guidance saying you're off. It's like the bumps on the road. Don't take them personally.
Yeah.
When Esther's driving the monster bus, she spends a little bit of time every now and again on the bumps. Sometimes she does it just to get Jerry's attention. and it always does. Even if he's asleep. Even if he's asleep, it gets. But she doesn't take it personally. In other words, it doesn't mean she's inept. It doesn't mean she's stupid. It doesn't mean she's incapable of driving the monster bus. It just means right now in this moment she could be better placed on the road than she currently is. That's all it means. It doesn't mean she's going to die. It doesn't mean it's the end of the world. It doesn't mean she's going to go off in the bar pit. It doesn't mean she's lost ability to use her arms. It doesn't mean that she's lost her mind. It just means she could focus better. That's all it means. That's all your negative emotions mean. You could focus better. Yes. And how do you know you could focus better? Now, this is so important. How would you know that you could focus in a better place? Because your inner being already is focused in a better place, and the emotion you feel is the indicator of the vibrational relationship between how you're focused and how the source within you is focused. It's not a judgment. It's not a you've done bad. It's just a simple, you could direct your thoughts in a more productive, better feeling way if what you said through life experience that you wanted is true, which it is. It's true. This is true. This is reality. This is the real reality. And when you deviate from the real reality, you're never going to feel good. You're off course just a little bit. That's all those emotions mean, you see. So when you have strong negative emotion like depression, it doesn't mean you're really, 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 really off course. It means you really, really, really want something really, really different than you're really, really focused right now. That's all. That's all, you see. Don't you like knowing that?
Yes, I do. That's great.
I'm not bad, and I couldn't feel this bad if I weren't really so good. So much for depression.
Yeah.
Now you know what it is. In other words, don't you like knowing that you've been blessed with a really acute, powerful guidance system? Good for you.
I mean, I've always been super sensitive, and from your teachings, that's a good thing.
Super sensitive and able to guide thought, fabulous. Super sensitive and sloppy with thinking, not so good.
No, not
In
at
terms
all.
of the way it feels. And so,
Yeah.
Esther and Jerry, they talk about this incessantly, all day, every day, because each of them knows. Esther will say, look how good our life is. Can you imagine if we would just try?
It's just,
Can you imagine how good our life could be if we would just make sure that we're in the vortex instead of sometimes just going down a negative trail because it's there? Oh, let's see where this negative trail leads. Because they now have the confidence of knowing that it's going to be all right and that life is working for them and that things always work out for them. But imagine how good life would be as you just focus more. So now give us some examples, and let's just lean in the direction of the vortex. Because you said something earlier, and we want to exaggerate it a little bit and show you something important. You were thinking thoughts that were sort of patterns of thoughts. You said, I was trying to make a decision about something. And you made it sound like this big, profound, powerful decision that you had to choose the right way. And we want to say to you, there aren't any of those. The decisions that you're going to like this. You know this emotional scale that we were talking about earlier, and we talked about, so you start out and you're overwhelmed, and then the next thought's sort of overwhelmed, and then you go to an angry thought, and then you're overwhelmed and angry and overwhelmed and angry. These aren't life-changing decisions. This is just thoughts about what's going on in your house, what's going on with your clothes, what's going on with your neighbor, what's going on in your driveway, what's going on. In other words, they're not big, profound, life-changing decisions. It's just the decision or a thought about what you're going to think about now, what you're going to think about now. But those thoughts all represent the pattern of thought from which you have access to the next thoughts and the next thoughts and the next thoughts and the next thoughts. Well, what we want you to understand is that if you've been allowing yourself to hang around in thoughts of overwhelmment or anger or fear or any of those, then you don't have access to these thoughts over here. So it's not possible for you to make a decision that would take you into the vortex when you've been hanging around over here. The only thing that's possible is that you would make a decision to think a thought more like this. Because if you make a decision to think a thought more like this, it'll be brief and you'll be right back here. But if you make the decision again, it'll be brief and you'll be right back here. If you make a decision again, it'll be brief, but you'll be right back here. If you make a decision again, it'll be brief, but you'll be right back here. So what you want to do is make a decision to go here. Hang around there, then here. Hang around there, then here. In other words, it's just leaning a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. What you're doing, and these are the best words that we could offer, you're training your vibration back to its natural frequency of allowing rather than resisting. But it's like training a muscle. If you do it all today, tomorrow you won't be able to walk. So you want to just do it gradually. Just gradually reach for the new thought and the new thought and the new thought, all along knowing who you really are, knowing what your dominant objective really is, just leading in the direction of it. That's why in those moments when you're observing something and it does take you into the vortex, that's when you want to do all of your affirming. You know, the affirmation cards, they've been called affirmation cards. The first cards that Jerry and Esther presented in this way, they named well-being cards. But an affirmation, so many people from outside the vortex try to make affirmations of what they want, but they don't stick because it's just words, blah, 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 blah. But if you, for whatever reason, find yourself inside the vortex just for that moment of elation, and you recognize that you're there, that's the time that you want to start affirming. This is who I am. This is where I belong. This is where I really like to be. This is where I'd like to be mostly. No big deal if I leave the vortex. I know how to get back in. Life is working out for me. I'm doing really good work. I'm doing what I came here to do. I'm exploring contrast, and that's a good thing. Often, I'm launching all kinds of rockets of desire. That's a good thing. I'm fulfilling my reason for being. That's a good thing. The source within me, my inner being, hangs out in the vortex all the time. That's a really good thing. The reason I feel good right now that I'm in the vortex is because I'm in resonance with who I really am. That's a good thing. If I should leave the vortex, that's not a bad thing. That's just an indicator. I can get back in whenever I want or soon enough. All is well with me. Life is good for me. I'm pretty good at this. I'm getting better at this. I love this understanding. I love this knowing. There's nobody on the planet who wants to be in the vortex more than me, because there's nobody on the planet who wanted to be in more and wasn't than me. I know so much, the difference. I know where I want to be, and never again will I go to those depths of despair. I now know too much. There's nothing for me to worry about. All is really well with me. I really like being in the vortex. I really like hanging around in the vortex. I have a whole bag of tricks to keep me in the vortex. I'm sort of getting tired of trying to stay in the vortex. Out you go. No problem. I can get back in the vortex when I feel like it. You see? It's just about focus. So we want to go back to that one thing that we were saying to you. It feels like there's this big decision that I need to make and get right. And there's never one of those kinds of decisions. It's just in every moment you can choose to focus on vibrational reality or reality. And there are plenty of things in your reality that when you focus on them, take you into the vortex. And so use them. Sift the things and find the things that are in your reality that take you into the vortex. But just be aware moment by moment that you can be in or out, and it's not crucial which you choose, but those are the choices we want you to be aware of. Those choices, not those big decisions.
And even at those seemingly big decisions, even when they weren't, I did get a sense of, and I didn't trust it. Something coming through me, and I listened to something outside of me.
Well, listen, nothing makes Esther more mad at herself, even though she knows that when she's mad at herself, she's off there in Siberia, far from where we are. Nothing makes her madder at herself than to know something and then do it differently than she knew it to be. And we say to her again and again, once she drags herself back into the vortex, that's how you know. It's like you don't look at little children learning to walk and they fall down and you say, "Get up, you little dummy." You appreciate their effort. You like them finding their balance. And you want to give yourself the same latitude in all of that, you see. Of course you want to make good decisions. But the good decisions that you want to make aren't those big decisions. The good decisions that you want to make are, I could praise rather than criticize, even though lunch wasn't good.
Lunch was great. I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway.
But we don't want you to need a good lunch in order to praise. In other words, you have those choices. I could appreciate or I could condemn. I could love or I could hate. In other words, those choices are always there for you. And those are the choices. What makes up the majority of everyone's vibration are not the big decisions, what you call the life-changing decisions. It's just the day-to-day, how you're relating to your house, how you're relating to your mate, how you're relating to your kids, how you're relating to the neighbors, how you're relating. In other words, it's just those